You're listening to the Reds Podcast.
This is episode number 45. Entrepreneurs are great at starting things. We're great at coming up with ideas. We're great at getting them moving along very quickly. But when it comes to continuing ideas, keeping them going, and finishing them, that's where we fall down. On this episode of the Red Podcast, we're talking about keeping your ideas and your businesses moving forward.
This is the Red Podcast. Real entrepreneur development. Make more money, work less, and live a life of freedom. No BS advice that really works. Here's your hosts, David Hooper and Laurel Staples.
Well, I just got back from the grocery store. Almost didn't make it back in time for Red Podcast.
Oh my God, I think that's a first with you going grocery shopping.
Well, it may be the last. It was completely stressful.
Why?
There was
What
some
happened?
kid named Miller going crazy. Miller, come here. Miller. Miller. I don't know where the hell Miller was, but she was not around her mother on any of the aisles that I happened to bump into her mom on. Yeah, it was crazy, man. But here's something good that happened. I'm like an extreme coupon champ.
Oh, yeah. You're a fan of that show, too.
Well, I've seen it a couple times, yeah. I went in there, my bill was like $50-something, but I ended up paying like $40.
Wow. I don't think that's extreme couponing.
Well,
That's
it was
just
like
couponing.
$20.
I don't think you did your math right. That was $10. Just couponing.
It was just, you got to start somewhere. Well, I don't usually use coupons, but Kroger sent me like a ton of coupons, man, and half the stuff was free.
Did you get those M&Ms?
I did, yeah. Yeah, but I threw the dude off because I was thinking of you. Your voice was in my head. David, don't get the M&Ms. So I got the small M&Ms, even though this thing would have been good for like the 1-ton size.
So am I like the little devil or the angel sitting on your shoulder, like telling you what to do?
No, you're like the devil because, for one, I hadn't been to the grocery for a while, and I was noticing all these people in the frozen food aisle getting all this processed stuff. And I was not doing that. I was just looking for some toothpaste.
So what did the devil version of me tell you?
The devil version was like, don't get those frozen pizzas. And I got some orange juice, and I even felt guilty about that because of the sugar content.
Sugar, liquid sugar.
Let's get to the point here. Not couponing. Don't ask me for that kind of advice. RED stands for Real Entrepreneur Development. That's the kind of advice that I can give you.
Yeah, RED is for your coaches. If you're a speaker, if you're an author, blogger, podcaster, if you are trying to spread your message and build an audience and make a lot of money while doing it, this podcast is for you.
And doing it your way.
Doing it your
So you can go
way.
to the grocery in the middle of the day with crazy kids screaming or
With
whatever
Miller.
you want. With Miller.
Yep.
What the hell, Miller? Get it together. Get it together. There's a problem that I see a lot of entrepreneurs face. It's easy to start something, but not necessarily easy to keep going, not necessarily easy to finish. So I want to talk with you today about how to keep your career moving forward.
That was something that I've always found is I'm really great at starting businesses, but once you get into the everyday work, it's hard to keep going and keep moving forward. And so if you're one of those people that's a starter, loves to start things, loves to bring your ideas into fruition, but has trouble just keeping it on track and getting through any of the bumps in the road, this is going to be the episode for you.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of entrepreneurs. I think that's the entrepreneur personality. Love to start. We don't really like bookkeeping. We don't really like follow-up. We come up with ideas and we start them and then expect them to finish themselves, and they don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk to different people, they'll tell you the ideas that they started that just kind of fell into the trash after like a week or a month or something like that. There are a lot of people like that. But when you get that great idea, that business idea that's you're supposed to be working on and moving forward with, you definitely don't want to throw it aside. You want to keep going with it and not just switch to the next thing.
So this is how to keep things moving forward, your new business, your career, whatever you want to, how to move forward. My first piece of advice is don't worry about other people. You know, Red Podcast, relatively new. We've only been here for a couple of months. And when we were doing our research for Red Podcast, you and I had both done podcasts before, and I'd also done broadcast radio. But there's something about starting a brand new something, even if you've done it before. And we were looking at other people who had done maybe better than us, and it can get frustrating.
I think when you say don't worry about other people, I think it can go either way. I think you can fall into the comparison trap, like kind of what you're talking about. And I believe we've had an episode on the comparison trap where you look at the success of other people and you compare it to where you're at and it just gets you down. And a lot of times it stalls you in your tracks. And I think there's another way to worry about other people when you worry about what other people are thinking about you and what other people are saying to you. Maybe you have a naysayer in your life and you've kind of started to listen to them as, oh, maybe they were right. Maybe I'm crazy doing what I'm doing right now. Maybe I should just go back to working a job or punching the clock or something like that. But you don't want to worry about either one of those types of people.
Right. Absolutely. And the way that you do that, next on my list, focus on the outcome. That's really where you start as well, because as you're going through the day-to-day of your career, of your business, little things come up. It's easy to get distracted. It's easy to get caught up in the little things. But focusing on the outcome, I think, can help you to deal with those little things, including the naysayers and including the comparison traps that you might fall into.
And we've talked about on this podcast before, David, that you have to have a long-term goal to match up your short-term to-dos to your long-term goal. If you want to keep moving forward and keep knocking those things out every day, you have to look at your everyday to-dos and say, does this match up with my long-term goal? Does this lead me to the outcome? Does this take me to where I want to go? And if yes, that helps you keep getting through your day-to-day task. And if no, you don't need to be working on that thing anyway, but you have to know what the outcome is and you have to focus on it to know if what you're doing makes sense and will get you there.
Next on the list, if it works, keep doing it. I mentioned a minute ago that entrepreneurs, we have a personality type where we're great at starting, not necessarily keeping it going, definitely not great at finishing it, not most of us. And we have a tendency to start something, it works, and then we just ditch it. But if something is working, keep doing it. It's not going to work forever. You've got a moment in time where it is working, so keep doing it.
And this is something that I heard Barbara from Shark Tank say, is when she first starts to work with a new entrepreneur, she asks them to make a list of every single way they have made a sale. She doesn't care if they've had 3 sales or if they've had 2,000 sales. Like, list out every single sale and how they got that sale. And then instead of coming up with some new marketing technique or trying some different approach, she says, repeat what you're doing. You know, what is working, repeat it every time. And I think that's something that we always forget, especially when you're new in the game, but even when you're not, is you want to go on to that next cool marketing technique and maybe something else will work. But if there's something working for you right now, that's what you need to keep doing over and over and over again.
Right. We've talked about shiny object syndrome before.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And my saying is dance with the one that brung you. If you've got something that's working, it's really, really easy to think that somebody else has it better, the grass is always greener. There are different ways of saying that. Slow, consistent progress is much better than the hills and valleys of constantly chasing grass is always greener opportunities.
And this is something that I found that really worked in my coaching business when I first got started. About the first year that I did that business, I did a lot of guerrilla marketing, as in that I did every marketing approach that I could think of. And I wrote a blog post on my blog at Go Fire Yourself about it. Just every single thing that I read about, I would implement immediately and see how it worked. And what I determined was that a couple things work for me. One of them being live workshops really helped me get clients. So I started doing those regularly and started ditching the other stuff that wasn't working. So find what works. It might take you a minute to find what works, but when you do, stick with it.
Something that I think you're doing right now, Laurel, because you're in the middle of working on your book, is another thing on my list, and that's avoid the cave. And usually how the cave works is you'll come out with a product. Maybe it's a record album if you're a musician, a book if you're an author, maybe it's a new information product or a course or a seminar that you're doing, and you've been planning and planning and planning and planning and planning it. It comes out, you're tired, you'll take a little bit of time off. You'll disappear in some cases. And when that happens, people start forgetting you. So if you want to keep your career moving forward, your projects, your business moving forward, it's very important that you avoid the cave. And to me, that means 52 weeks a year, 365 days per year, you are doing emails, you're blogging, you're on Twitter, you're doing whatever you need to do to keep in front of people. Don't just take off for months at a time and expect them to be there when you get back.
I would say you can find a balance in there. For me, when I went to Toronto a couple weeks ago, I got on Hootsuite and put in some tweets and Facebook messages to go up while I was gone. Now, I don't do that while I'm here on my computer, but that gave me the opportunity to take a break and not go in the cave. And you are right, David, is that I am trying really hard not to go in the cave, because when you write a book and you're trying to put all your energy and effort into this one thing, it's hard to be out there. It's hard to put your energy into other things such as blogging and Facebook and Twitter and all those things. But you do need to stay connected because you want that tribe there when your book comes out or when your product comes out. So don't disappear for long periods of time.
Yeah, a few days, a week. If you're going on vacation, you can bring people into that, but don't just disappear without letting people know where you're going.
Yeah, you can definitely inform your audience where you're going, but you don't want to just fall off the map. I mean, David, you and I have seen so many podcasts. It's like one day they're going, one day they're not. They call it pod fading. Is they're just gone, and you can't keep moving forward if you just drop off the planet like that.
Well, and if you miss in podcasting a month or two, people will just unsubscribe. It's very unlikely that they're going to come back. Once they're gone, they're gone. It's like an ex-girlfriend.
Good point.
Don't follow trends. That is next on the list. And I see this happening in two different areas. I see it happening with creatives, such as musicians, and I see it happening with marketers that are trying to go for whatever's hot, whatever the equivalent of Oprah is promoting right now. Maybe there's a hot niche that's really going gangbusters right now. They're going to go for it. They're just jumping from trend to trend to trend. My advice is to not follow the trends. And this is if you're looking for a long-term career. My advice is to do what it is that you do and wait for the trends to come around for you. That way you're established, and that way you're going to do great when the trends come around to you. A few years ago, I had a book on the subject of what we'll call law of attraction. It was basically a mindset book. And the reason I wrote it was because I was interested in the people that were successful in their businesses but weren't necessarily the best. They were having success without being the best teachers, the best writers, the best musicians, the best artists, the best. Just average, yet they were having above average success. Put it out, didn't think much of it. Then, and this happened relatively quickly, something called The Secret took off. And you remember that movie, Laurel. It was on Oprah twice. It was on Larry King. It was everywhere. You couldn't escape it. And when that happened, I was ready to take advantage of that trend. And because of that, I ended up coming out with a couple of more law of attraction books, one called Lucky You, the other called Ask, Believe, Receive. And it really paved the way for I'm going to call it a different career, very similar to what I'm doing, but in a different market. If you think like that, you do what it is that you do. Don't follow the trends. Let the trends come to you. You're going to be more engaged. You're going to be established when the trends start, so you'll be there ahead of time as opposed to everybody else who's trying to jump on the trends. I think this is a really, really big one. Don't follow trends.
Maybe you could start the trends like you did.
Well, you could start the trends, certainly. And there are some that I have started. Absolutely.
I say that if a trend really resonates with you, Like if a specific social media platform that comes around really resonates with you and you're going to get on there and you're going to follow through and you're going to put enough effort into it to make it work, go for that. But that's not a trend for you. But don't bounce around from one thing to the other thing just because you think the grass is greener on the other side.
Next on the list, don't look down. When I first met Laurel, I took her out into the wilderness.
Where is this going, David?
And one of the things that we did together, we climbed a 50 or 60 foot pole, and then you would jump off the pole. Of course, you were harnessed in. It wasn't like you were doing some kind of death defiance, although it was kind of scary.
Let me preface this by saying we went to Adventure Works, which is an outdoor adventure center with zip lining and different challenges.
Yeah, I didn't just.
This wasn't the middle of the forest.
In the middle of the forest.
That's
no.
what it sounded like when you told the story. So I just wanted to clarify that this wasn't random.
Yeah, it was like an outdoor team building compound.
Yes.
So I took Laurel out there, had to see how she would work under stress. She climbed a pole. She got up on top of a 2x2 platform, or maybe it was 1x1.
I think it was 1x1.
She got on top of a 1x1 platform, and then she jumped off. Of course, she was harnessed in. She wasn't going anywhere, but she wasn't sure until she did that. And the advice the guy gave us was don't look down. And I'm going to tell you that as great advice for your business, because sometimes people have success and they've got a lot of money coming in, or they've got a lot of people that they're speaking in front of, or they've just got a lot of responsibilities, and then they psych themselves out. They think, oh my gosh, I can't possibly do something this good for this many people. I'm comfortable at 10 people, but maybe not 1,000. And you don't want to psych yourself out. So don't look down.
Don't look down. And I didn't look down on that pole. I looked straight out.
Straight ahead. She saw a bell, rang that bell, and then she fell down a few feet before they caught her.
Yeah, it was scary, I'll be honest.
We'll put video of that up on the show notes.
I think we should.
That'll be at redpodcast.com/45 if you want to see Laurel climb. It looks like a telephone pole. Get on a 1x1 platform, then jump off.
I think I missed the bell in that video, though. But I did it again.
That was the second time.
I did it again, and I did hit the bell. But
you'll have to trust her on that.
I don't know which video that you have. We'll just go with it.
Next up, see opportunities. This is really, really important. You've got to see where there's potential for you to do something, and you can't do that if you don't open your eyes. We've talked about this movie before, the September issue, about Vogue magazine. The September issue, it's a double issue, and they were asking one of the editors about advice that she had for people, and she said, I think you should always have your eyes open because you never know what you're going to see. And see opportunities certainly applies to business because you never, ever know what's going on and what you can take advantage of and how you can help people.
Many entrepreneurs, I believe, kind of go towards their goal with their blinders on. And I think this can be good and bad because when you put your blinders on and just focus on your goal, yes, that's great. It helps you avoid shiny object syndrome and getting pulled down tangent paths. But I think you need to open up a little bit more. And what you said, David, is see those opportunities because the path that you've chosen, might not be the only path to your goal. And you might be able to change direction just a little bit or tweak it just a little bit and even hit a bigger goal. But you have to be open to those opportunities. So you want to have some sort of blinders on to keep following down your path, but not stay just totally closed off.
Be aware of them, and certainly you want to follow them when the right one does come along. So let's add that footnote that it's one thing to see them, but it's a completely different one to actually take advantage of them.
And again, I think you have to go back to what is your outcome? What is your ultimate goal? And if you see an opportunity that lines up with that goal, follow it. Don't just put it on hold. But if you see an opportunity that maybe doesn't, maybe it's not your opportunity, but you still want to see them and at least have the opportunity to follow an opportunity.
And you need to know when you're getting lucky. I think this is really, really important. We talked earlier about if it works, you need to keep doing it. Sometimes things work and we've got no idea. Sometimes the stars are in alignment and something just takes off. Know when you're getting lucky and that's not the time to quit.
Yeah, I met with one of my friends today who runs a local blog here in Nashville, and it's a really successful blog now, and I've known her for a couple years. She started to make more money than she was at her last day job, so things are going really well for her, and she's like, yeah, Laurel, occasionally, I'll think, I want to start this other blog or I want to go down this other path, but I have to know when I'm getting lucky and this thing is going really well, and I'm going to have to ride the wave here. So even her, who's making plenty of money with her blog, has the ups and downs, but you got to know when you're getting lucky.
Yeah, run with it. Now is not time to take a vacation. You can take a vacation when nothing's happening.
When you're dead. Well, let me summarize what we've talked about today. To keep your career or your business moving forward, number one, don't worry about other people out there, either the naysayers or don't compare yourself to successful people. You are where you are. And you have to focus on the outcome, which is number two, to keep yourself moving forward. Number three, if it works, keep doing it. Number four, avoid the cave. Number five, don't follow trends. Let the trends catch up with you. Number six, don't look down. Number seven, see opportunities. 8 is follow opportunities. And 9, know when you are getting lucky.
If you've got questions, you've got comments, you've got something you want to follow up on, we are available via our website at redpodcast.com. Always happy to hear from you. Always happy to take suggestions on what topics we should cover here on Red Podcast. We'd appreciate also if you would help us to build the real entrepreneur community. One of the ways that you can do that is by going to iTunes and leaving a review for us. Just search for Red Podcast, click on review. We would appreciate that because when you do, we come up more often in search results, and that helps us to build the real entrepreneur community. And the more of us that are out there doing this stuff, the more everybody benefits. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on the next episode of the Red Podcast.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, Real Entrepreneur Development. Subscribe today using iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.